Belmont Stakes.
Welcome in. It is our Belmont Stakes preview show brought to you by NYRA Bets. I'm Anita Marks. He's Dan Tordjman, of course, with ABR, America's Best Racing, the only place you go to get the best information when it comes to horse racing. Mark DiLorenzo from Giddy Up, baby, is going to be joining us momentarily with his picks and his plays heading into the Belmont Saturday. It's going to be great. I'm going to be there. Dan, you're going to be there. I can't wait, man. Belmont.
This is it. It's the biggest race in New York. It's the final leg of the Triple Crown. It's also the 50th anniversary of Secretariat winning the Triple Crown and the most famous race of all time, his Belmont Stakes, when he won by 31 lengths. So a lot of history and a really good betting race, I think, when you dig into it. So we got a lot to get to. I'm excited.
Absolutely. Again, the Belmont Stakes post time is going to be at 6:50 p.m. on Saturday. Test of Champions, and for good reason, right? 1.5 miles. And so Dan and I are going to go through the 9 horses that will make that post time and hopefully win. One of them obviously is going to win the Belmont Stakes, but want to remind you, the show presented by NYRA Bets, and we've got a great opportunity for you to bet on NYRA Bets. Put in the code Anita25 and you get $25 free to play. And also they will match your deposit up to $200. So make sure you do that. Lock and load that code, Anita25 from NYRA Bets. And hopefully after watching this show, we will hopefully, Dan, help the people win some money. So let's dive into the 9 horses again that are going to be strutting their stuff for the Belmont Stakes. Number 1, Tappet Shoes. From what I understand, I was talking to Mark earlier today, and again, he's going to be joining us. But 6 of these 9 horses have some bloodline from Tappet, who, of course, we know is the horse that the bloodline you want in this type of race because it's the long race. It's the longest race of the 3 in the Triple Crown. So if you can, tell us more about horse number 1, Tappet Shoes.
Yeah, so Tappet Shoes, you mentioned one of 2 horses in the race sired by Tappet. So that means Tappet is their father. The 1 Tappet Shoes and the 2 Tappet Trice. So the 2 horses on the rail are Tappets. But you're right, there are 4 other horses in this field whose mother were by Tappet. So there's the direct bloodlines to Tappet. And 4 times over the past 10 years, horses sired by Tappet have won the Belmont Stakes. So it is important. You could get in the weeds with pedigree a lot of times, but this is a very simple one to understand. Certain horses breed good long distance runners, and Tappet is one of those runners. So yes, that is the interest in Tappet Shoes. The horse is 20-1 in the morning line. He's taking a big step up in class here. We can take a look back at a race a little while back at Oaklawn Park. It's called the Bathhouse Road. So Tappet Shoes is actually on the lead in this race, and he looks like, so he's the 9 horse right there. He looks pretty good, but then, he's going to get nailed at the wire right there by Red Route 1, who's also in this race. Red Route 1, as it turns out, is the 9 horse in the Belmont Stakes. But the thing with Tappet Shoes is he doesn't have as much experience as some of these other runners. He hasn't raced in this kind of company, but he is an improving type. And he also has a little bit of a weapon that could come into play here. And I'm sure when Mark comes on, we'll talk about it as well. He's got a little bit of speed, and he's drawn on the rail. And so in a race like this, you might think, well, they're going 1.5 miles. What do you need speed for? A lot of times we've seen over the years a horse who can get to the front and who can slow the pace down, even at 1.5 miles, their class is going to take them the distance, and it's going to be hard to catch up to that horse because a lot of those horses behind them, they're going to be trying that 1.5 mile distance for the first time, right? So they have to now accelerate late in the race, and they're all going to be running essentially the same pace late. And so you want to be near the front, and in a race where there is no pace or very limited pace, like there might be in this Belmont Stakes, having speed could be a benefit for Tappet Shoes.
So Tappet Shoes, a Brad Cox horse. Of course, he won the Belmont in 2021 with Essential Quality. The jockey will be Jose Ortiz, who won the Belmont in 2017. So keep that in mind. Let's take a look at the second horse. This is a horse a lot of people like, including Mark, who again we're going to hear from shortly. Tappet Trice. He's been known as, quote unquote, the perfect animal. for this race. And Todd Pletcher, of course, who's won the Belmont 4 times. And tell me all the reasons why you like the 2-horse, Dan.
Yeah, I mean, he better be perfect because they paid $1.3 million for him. So, I mean, this is a pricey horse from day one, and he's a horse that just kind of exudes class. But he's a little clunky. He's a little odd. Sometimes he has some trouble getting out of the gate. He's usually way out of it early, and then he makes this big closing run late, or what looks like a big closing run, when in fact the horses up front are tiring. He's still running well because he's a Tappet, so he can run all day. And so, again, the Tappet pedigree there is strong. You like that. You like the fact that he's won some races. So unlike Tappet Shoes, he's actually proven in this 3-year-old crop against some of the better horses. So you like him for that. Where you don't like him as much is that he didn't run the greatest Derby. Mark might make a case that he actually did run a pretty decent Derby. He finished up well enough, but people expected more from him in the Derby. I expected more from him in the Derby. And so here in a race where he's not going to get like a crazy speed setup, I don't think, up front, he's going to really have to pass some quality horses in front of him. And he may not get a pace set up, and he may be way off of it if he doesn't break well. Now, mile and a half, plenty of time to kind of correct and to make up ground. I think he's got his work cut out for him. I'm interested to hear Mark's case, but he's going to be a short price. He's 3-1 in the morning line.
The 3-horse, Archangelo, 8-1 right now, and this is late bloomer the right word, or
Yep.
in regard to describing him? This is the first time. Granted, again, this is the 3rd leg of the Triple Crown, and this is the first that I'm hearing of this horse. What can you tell us?
Well, that's him right there in the Peter Pan Stakes. He loses the lead briefly and then re-rallies Archangelo, the 1-horse. And the horse he beat right there is a decent little horse who beat a horse named First Mission, who was going to be one of the favorites in the Preakness, but scratched. So that horse that he beat is a quality horse, but Archangelo himself, that was his first time in that kind of company. He did put up a very big Beyer speed figure, which he could improve off of. And if he does improve off of that, he then is in the conversation in terms of a potential win candidate. He's 8-1 in the morning line. And what's interesting about this horse, you're going to hear it a number of times leading up to the gates opening on Saturday. He's trained by Jenna Antonucci, who's a great story. She's a 47-year-old New York-based trainer. Only 11 women have ever had a horse in the Belmont Stakes, and no woman has ever won the race. So she could become the first female trainer to win the Belmont Stakes.
How fantastic. What a great storyline that would be, for sure. The 4-horse, National Treasure, of course, coming off a win at the Preakness. This is a Bob Baffert horse. Do you think a lot of money is going to be placed on National Treasure because of the performance we saw at the Preakness, Dan?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fair to expect that people, know the name Baffert, and they know, that he's very capable of winning multiple legs of a Triple Crown with his horses. Now, National Treasure is a horse who, up until the Preakness, had been considered a little bit of a disappointment. He hadn't really ever run on the lead like that, with the exception of his first start, and so he showed a new dimension. So we hadn't seen him do that, but the other thing that worked to his advantage was no one really pressed him. So he was alone on the lead, which is obviously a benefit to a horse if they don't have to contend with another horse throughout the race. And so he had plenty in reserve late to win the Preakness. Now, will the same scenario unfold for him in the Belmont? I don't think so. Again, we've talked a little bit about pace. I don't think the pace is going to be lightning fast, but Tappet Shoes has some speed. And the horse we're going to talk about in a moment, the horse to National Treasure's outside, Il Miracolo, also has speed. So I think a little bit of a different pace dynamic, and I'm also not convinced that National Treasure is going to fully enjoy the 1.5-mile distance.
What can you tell us about the 5-horse?
So I like this horse a lot. I'm gonna let Mark, completely roast me for this, and I know he will, because this is a classic me play. But it's a pace play. And what I think is going to happen is this horse, who won an allowance against much softer company in his last race, like literally, if the horses at the Belmont Stakes are like way up here, he was facing horses down here. So he's totally, his only wins have come against competition that would be absolutely blown away in this field. But he did show really good speed to the half mile in his previous race, he ran 2 seconds faster than what National Treasure ran in the Preakness to the half mile. So I think what's going to happen is it's new connections who aren't really at Belmont much. It's a jockey named Marcos Meneses who's never ridden the Belmont Stakes. I think they're just going to go for it. They know it's their only shot. I think they go right to the front with the horse and see how far they can go. Again, on class, on experience, on everything that you could possibly look at. The horse is a cut below, and that's why he's 30-1. But if you think a horse could potentially get to the front and hang around for a share at a big price, Il Miracolo is a horse that I think you should look at. I'm looking at him very closely. This
is a huge up. Are you calling the upset right here on our Belmont preview show, Dan?
I don't know that he's going to win.
30-1. I can
see we have the benefit of seeing Mark in the green room right here. I see him laughing, shaking his head, holding his head in his hands.
Okay, well, I can't wait to see what his thoughts are on that pick from you. Let's talk about Forte, right? Because this was a horse, obviously, heading into the Derby, was a huge favorite, and then all the drama behind it was scratched, couldn't run because of the foot, yada, 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 and then did not race in the Preakness. So now this is really our first shot of really seeing Forte and a horse that was favored in the Derby. So high expectations, a Pletcher horse here as well. What can you tell us?
Yeah, look, he was the 2-year-old champion last year. He was perfect in his 2 starts this year as a 3-year-old. He would have gone off as the favorite in the Derby. And then he had the foot injury. And due to protocol, he wasn't able to run in the Preakness either. And since then, there have been a number of other things which you alluded to. Namely, and this may not be relevant in the moment right now, but as a 2-year-old, it was revealed just recently that he failed a drug test coming out of one of his big races. And so, that kind of maybe puts a little bit of an asterisk behind that win. But everything else he's done, you can't take away from him. He's been really, really good. But with the foot injury, and with some of the video we've seen of him on track, even the past couple of weeks, some people have said he looks a little different. Like he's been a little awkward. He's taken a bad step, I heard. I mean, there's a lot of people who were there in and around the track watching him in the morning aren't as impressed with him at the moment as they may have been previously. I think that's the best way to describe it. But on credentials, on his actual accomplishment, he deserves to be the favorite. Will he be? I don't think so, because of all of the stuff that we just mentioned, and because a couple of the other horses in here, I think, will be generating a little more buzz.
And keep in mind, he arguably, maybe not, has the best rider on him as well, Irad Ortiz Jr. The 7-horse Hit Show. This is another Brad Cox horse that's going to be competing. What can you tell us about Hit Show?
Yeah, so comes in a little under the radar. He was probably the best horse who prepped for the Derby in New York. So of the New York-based horses, he was most impressive. He had some trip trouble in the Wood Memorial, which cost him the win there. But he won the Withers, so he's got some ability. He also ran 5th in the Kentucky Derby, despite being pretty close to the pace. So he was up near, of all the horses that were up near the pace, only 2 of them really stuck around. One was a horse named Two Phils, who finished 2nd, and the other was Hit Show. So he's got the ability. He's one of these whose dam is by Tapit. And so, I'm not worried about the distance at all with him, and you're going to get a decent price. So he's one of the horses who I do like underneath.
The number 8 horse, Angel of Empire, as we know, he came in 3rd in the Derby. Another Brad Cox horse. And I think, if you can, having the blinkers on, I think is a significant story here with this horse, right, Dan?
It is, absolutely. Flavian Pratt, his jockey, as soon as the race ended, apparently told Brad Cox, let's get blinkers on this horse, because what happened was he made this move from off the pace, and then he kind of what we call hung. He just kind of didn't pass in the lane. There were 2 horses in front of him. He passed a bunch of other horses, but didn't get past the top 2. And, I think they would have liked to have seen a little bit more from him late there. If you take a look back to this race, this is when he was most impressive. This is him winning the Arkansas Derby, and he does this with ease, just under a hand ride here, and really no one making any impact. So he's got all the ability in the world. He finished third in the Derby, which is the best finish of any horse who's returning in this race. I have a lot of respect for him. I think he's going to win the race. He's going to be my pick. And he really, if he runs back to his Derby or does any better, he should win this race.
Do you think he's going to be favored at post time?
I do. I do. Yeah, I do think he's going to go off as the favorite. Again, would be interested in Mark's take on that, but I think that he's likely to go off somewhere in the 2-1 range.
And last but not least, rounding out the crew is Red Route 1, who came in 4th at the Preakness. So not a lot of time off, obviously, coming in. What can you tell us about the 9-horse?
So, yeah, he did make a decent move, from way off the pace that we saw earlier in that race at Oaklawn. And he beat Tappet Shoes. But catching Tappet Shoes late at Oaklawn is different than running in this kind of company. And we saw him in the Preakness finish 4th, not make much of an impact late. I'm not a huge fan of this horse. It's possible that he could be in the mix underneath if you're playing like a superfecta. But as a win candidate, I don't see him having that great of a chance. Great connections, by the way. Steve Asmussen won this race in 2016. And Joel Rosario is a 2-time winner of the Belmont Stakes. So he's got the right people around him. I'm not sure that on talent he's there.
Okay, so we've previewed now the 9 horses that are going to be strutting their stuff. Hopefully, one of them obviously hoping to win the Belmont. Let's bring in our guest of the hour, and that is Mark DiLorenzo from Giddy Up. Mark, welcome in. I bet you are itching at the bit, baby. You are.
There's a lot to unpack. There's a lot to unpack there, Dan. Oh my God.
You are.
I'm ready. Bring it on.
Let's do this before we dive into the Belmont. I know that there are 2 races on the card prior to the Belmont that you're eyeing. Let's do a little foreplay here before we go straight to right. Let's do that. All right. So
giddy up.
You're the giddy up, baby. Giddy up. All right. So the 5th race, the Poker Stakes, is the first race that you're feeling you've got true conviction in regard to a horse in this race. Who is it and why?
All right, so let me preface this. Let me start. 1, thank you for having me on. Anita, looking great as usual. Dan, looking good, looking slender. I like it. Trimmed down. You look fit, ready for the 12 furlongs on Saturday. The first race I promised everybody out there I was going to throw out a bomb, a best bet, and a Belmont lock. So we're going to start with number 1. It's not every day I'm going to get 15-1 on a Chad Brown horse. So I'm going to take this bomb in this direction. Race 5, Saturday, Belmont Park, Grade 3 Poker Stakes. Number 3, McKinnon, is a horse that really wowed me off of the screen way back when on October 3rd of 2021. That was a little while ago, but let me just go through it real quick. In the Zuma Beach, that was the prep leading into the 2021 British Cup Juvenile Turf. This horse ran off of the screen. Took off, showed a turn of foot that you don't see every day. I said, there's a lot of talent here. I went about, I made a big bet on this horse in the British Cup Juvenile Turf. A couple of wonky things happened in that race, which we won't get into. Modern Games won, but kind of didn't win. He ran a really nice race, showed me a lot of talent. After that, he kind of went off track. He regressed. He really wasn't exactly the same in 2022. And then out of nowhere, at the end of October, he showed up in the Chad Brown bar, ran in the Grade 2 Hill Prince. Ran a pretty good race. He's now been off of the layoff. There's nobody better off of a layoff than Chad Brown on the turf with an aggressive placement like this. Number 3, McKinnon in race 5 Saturday, Chad Brown. In order for this horse to win, I wanted to see some tote support. He's going to have to take a little bit of money. If he's floating at the 15-1 morning line, 20-1 morning line, I would call that chilly on the board, cold on the board. There's no steam behind it. Probably won't win. So when I say bomb, I would like to see a little tote support here for this horse. The main reason I like this horse is, number 1, I think it has a lot of talent. Taking a shot here off of a long layoff, this horse could run really well. But I don't love anybody else in the race. There's another Chad Brown horse in the race. The favorite on the rail is a good horse, but he's nothing that's that fantastic. So I'm going to zoom in, place a nice little wager, builds a little bankroll, get on a little bit of a heater, start printing money early Saturday with number 3, McKinnon, in the Grade 3 poker. My first would be my bomb.
Okay, the bomb has been dropped. All right, let's go to race 9. Is it the Jaipur Stakes? Am I pronouncing that properly? Right?
Nailed it.
Yep.
Okay,
Perfect.
good. All right, fantastic. I'm rolling tonight.
Who's better than you, Anita? Is there anybody better than you? I can't name anyone. I can't. I know Dan's not better than you. Oh my, screaming about the Mets. He likes this horse that has no chance in the Belmont Stakes. What is he telling us?
Well, you can't debate me on the Mets. The Mets suck. We can all agree on that.
Well, we all know that, but come on, Mike.
I just want to throw it out here. My best futures bet this year in Major League Baseball was the Arizona Diamondbacks over 74.5 wins. They are like on their way to over 90. So,
winner. Excellent.
Yes. Ching. Anyway, let's talk about race 9. Mark, who do you like and why?
Number 9, race number 9, big field in a turf sprint. You have a deserving favorite in number 12, Caraval. She is a 6-year-old mare that's on a bit of a win streak here, and the race is going to have to go through her. She has sat some very nice trips the last couple, and what happens in these turf sprints with speed horses like this is that they start to get on a roll and peel off a lot of wins, and then you're going to find them in a race where they're going to be way, way over bet. And I have a feeling this is where you're going to land here. Source is 3-1 on the morning line, and will not be 3-1 at post time. There is other speed in this race, specifically number 9, I believe. Yes, 9. Nothing Better. There's a couple other horses that should be pressing Caraval. Caraval won the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint. Golden Pal broke slow, caught a huge break there. April 8th in the Shakertown, the other speed scratched, loose. Last time out, there was no other speed in the race, was Lone Speed, loose, won. So the race is going to have to go through her. She looks like she's improved. They were going to run her at Royal Ascot. They chose this spot instead. She would be an A for me on the grid, but I think she's going to be overbet. I see more pace developing. Belmont, you're getting the big wide turns. I want a wide sweeping move. If that's going to be the case, when you get a hot type of pace at this type of distance in this type of race, I'm making a big bet on number 10, Big Invasion. Woo! We just got a big invasion of smoke from our friends in Canada. We're going to hit a big invasion in the win bet. Race 9, Christophe Clement, 4-year-old colt. Last time out, the trip that this horse sat, I could talk about for about 25 minutes. No chance. Steady, shuffled, steady, shuffled, steady, shuffled. Still only lost by 4.5 lengths. 2 back at Gulfstream. Didn't get any pace to run into. Still won going 5 furlongs, which is not this horse's correct distance. This horse is getting back to 6 furlongs on Saturday. It's going to get pace. It draws the perfect post at a race like this at 6 furlongs at Belmont. You want to be outside. You want to let Joel Rosario not get buried down inside, as Dano knows he likes to do. Sit in the right spot, mid-pack, on the outside, tip out, clear, 5-1, print money, big invasion, race 9. Yes. I really like on Saturday.
Nice. I'm convinced. Both of those picks. That's conviction. Both of those plays, conviction. I love it. I'm in.
And not only does it come with conviction, but what you need to do, again, log on to NYRA Bets, put in my code, Anita25. You get $25 right away in regard to free play. It matches what your deposit is up to $200. And then what happens? Now you've already won race 5 and race 9, thanks to Mark DiLorenzo from Giddy Up, baby. And now you are ready. You are ready for the Belmont Stakes, which leads us to Mark. And are you ready to unleash on Dan? So as I always like to tell you when you're on my shows, hold my hand, take me to the window. Mark, how are you playing the Belmont Stakes?
Hold my hand too. Let's all go, 3-way like
that.
Yeah,
I've had to hold your hand many times, Dan. I held your hand. You handed me 4 years ago at Saratoga. Dan handed me a $100 bill. Says, go put in a bet. 3 hours later, we're alive for $60,000. I call him up. I'm like, Dan, where are you? Oh, I had to go do an interview. I'm like, we're alive for $60,000 here. He has to U-turn, come back around. He gets there just in time. We win $60,000. He handed me $100. I gave him $10,000. I got a small thank you. 2 years later, we did the same thing. He hands me $100. We won 22,000. He stayed that time. He didn't leave. I get another thing. This is holding your hand 101 here. So let's do it again. We're going to have to do it again, I guess, right?
Yeah, and oh, by the way, I'm going to be there Saturday.
Now Anita wants in.
Oh, you're out there. You're out. I printed you money.
I'm in.
Let's Anita and Dan out. Here we go. All right, Belmont Stakes. Let's not try to overcomplicate anything. Let me say a couple of things. Everything that Dan said was very sharp and very on the money. There are a lot of things that Dan said that I completely agree with. The one little bit of issue is with the number 5 horse, Il Miracolo, is a nice little 3-year-old who should be on the front end. And these races, my dad taught me when I was young, I recite this to Dan all the time when I'm at the racetrack with him, is that pace makes the race. And number 5 being in this race is going to increase the pace pressure on the Bob Baffert number 4 horse. So I think that he is a pace factor. My issue with him is that in the Florida Derby and the Fountain of Youth, where he was 100-1, losing by 20 plus lengths against better quality horses, I can make it. I can make a case for a lot of horses at huge prices, and I've seen Dan hit some huge prices before. You want to include this horse, go for it, because at 100-1, I can't really go too crazy on you, and I've seen crazier things happen, but this is just not a horse for me. He has to improve so much that he might be running so.
To be clear, I don't think he's going to win. I think there's a scenario in which he gets to the front. National Treasure doesn't go with him because that's not what National Treasure does. Plus, National Treasure isn't fast enough to go with him. And then Tappet Shoes is the only other horse with speed that I can see who could potentially stay close. I just think he's loose, and I think that they're all tired trying to get to him, except for a couple of them. And I think 1 or 2 might go by. I just think he doesn't finish 5th. I think he finishes 2nd or 3rd.
Okay. And if you want to go that route, from where I'm coming from my pace perspective, how I'm looking at this, National Treasure, if trained by Bob Baffert, is the speed in the race, will be on the lead. Okay. This, Bob Baffert, former quarter horse trainer, this horse was on the lead at a 6.5 furlong dirt sprint first time out at Del Mar, running like a 145 pace figure on my figures. This horse should be on the lead. The 5 should sit off, and the 1 should be right up there. Let's talk about the 1, Tappet Shoes. I heard you say a couple of nice things about Tappet Shoes. I agreed with you there. Anita then made a very good comment about how this horse has not gone through the ringer of the Triple Crown prep races, which happens in races like this is that you're going to catch value because of that. You're going to get a Tappet-sired Brad Cox improving type of horse who was a half to Cyberknife, if you remember back to the Breeders' Cup Mile last year, was a big-time 3-year-old for Brad Cox, who was a very nice 3-year-old through the Triple Crown runs. This horse has the pedigree, the connections, the trainer, the talent to do some running in here. I think this horse, of all of the long shots, this is the one that I think that I would use and lean upon the most to run a decent shot in here. I don't know if he's going to win, but he would be kind of my underneath long shot play is number 1, Tappet Shoes. As Anita mentioned earlier when you guys were talking, that my horse is Tappet Trice, and I don't have anything much to add from what you said other than this. The Belmont Stakes, I've always had a lot of success on this day, and I feel that you need to be a specific type of animal, and you need to be a specific type of runner to win a race like this. And when I saw this horse break its mean in December 17th of this year, he checked all of the boxes for me, and since then he's only improved. He started to show a little bit more tactical ability in the bluegrass, and why I was against him more or less in the Kentucky Derby are the same reasons why I am for him in the Belmont Stakes. And what do I mean by that? I think a lot of people are going to downgrade him a little bit and say, well, he should have run better in the Kentucky Derby, but the Kentucky Derby wasn't his type of race. He drew post 5. He's going to get shuffled back. He's going to be 20 lengths back, and he's going to have to be a big, grinding, never get tired type of horse who made a nice middle move around turn 2. I like to see that. Shows me that there's something there. There's not something wrong. And he finished pretty well. He ran an okay race. He ran the type of race that I was expecting, which I think is what I think where Dan kind of comes from, is like maybe you wanted to see a little bit more, but he kind of was right in where I thought that he could be. Could he have run a little bit better? Sure. But this is the race that I've been waiting for this horse to run in for 6 months, 7 months now. So I'm not about to get off now. As my father would always like to say to me, you're not betting the horses so much as you're betting the odds. If this horse is 3-5, I'm not betting this horse to win. This horse is 2-1, 5-2. If he's the morning line to 3-1, which I think he's going to be, because I can see some of the other horses with the correct claims and how I'm kind of looking at what's the words that are out there. If you can get more than the morning line odds of Tapit Trice going to the wins, I'm making a big win bet on number 2, Tapit Trice for Todd Pletcher, for all the reasons that Dan said before. And he is just built for this specific race, for the connections, for Todd Pletcher, who circles this race. And I guess within that, I have to talk about Forte, because that's Pletcher's other big horse in here. Let's take everything aside of him being scratched out of the Kentucky Derby, some of the foot issues, some of the foot news that's kind of out there that's lingering, that you don't know exactly what you're going to get here, which makes him a wild card. But if I just eliminated that, I've never really thought of this horse as a Belmont Stakes type of horse, which I don't even think was going to run in the Belmont. If he would have run in the Derby and say won, right, and then ran in the Preakness and ran second, they weren't going to run him in the Belmont Stakes. The 6 of the 9 horses, as Anita mentioned before, are of a Tapit influence. This is not one of them. This horse is by Violence, who wants to go a little bit shorter. Can this horse win this race? Sure, he's got a lot of talent, but I think there's too much stacked against me at a short price for me to say I'm going to play Forte, use Forte as an A, or use even in my exotics. This is kind of a horse that I'm looking to beat within this race. That's kind of where I've landed, is Tapit Trice to win. Underneath, if you want me to go a little bit deeper, I like Dan's pick with number 8, Angel of Empire. This was my pick in the Derby, and I ended up kind of pressing into him after the scratch of Skinner to kind of create a little bit of value, as that's how I play the game. Putting blinkers on, I don't mind. He's trained well in blinkers much of his career. Brad Cox has said he's going to want to go the distance. He's kind of my second choice. He would be the horse that I would be most afraid of if I was making a gigantic win bet on Tapit Trice, which I might end up doing depending on the odds on Saturday. Would be 8, Angel of Empire. Then the one last thing, I like to call it kind of being sucked up into second and third horses. I don't think they're going to win, but are going to be rolling late, maybe round out those vertical wagers. Number 9, Red Route 1, for a lot of the reasons Dan said. This horse just wants to run all day. He has no speed. He's going to be extremely far back. He can get rolling late, get a good close from Rosario, maybe round out your trifecta, superfectas. Number 9, Red Route 1. That's where I'm at.
Wow. A lot to digest there.
Who do you think goes off the favorite? We talked. You think it's
Angel of Empire is going to be the favorite. Yeah, Angel of Empire.
2-1 is fair. 2-1, 8-5.
Yeah, I think 2-1 is fair. 8-5 is probably what you're going to get. And as I said earlier about McKinnon in race 5, and I like to look at this with all the races. If he's not the favorite, I feel that he's chilly on the board, and there's a little bit of I don't know what I'm going to get here. I feel the same way with Forte. There's kind of like this intrinsic price in my mind of just kind of doing this for a long time, where I could be like, this doesn't make sense to me. Angel of Empire at 2-1, it seems fair. I just wouldn't bet that horse at 2-1 in a race like this. But being the favorite in the Kentucky Derby, rolling into the Belmont Stakes with these connections, I fully expect this horse to be the favorite, because you have question marks with number 6, Forte.
So gentlemen, let's end the show strong in regard to how you are going to the window. So, how exactly are you going to play this, Mark?
I'll be betting number 2, Tapit Trice to win. Like I said, a fair value. I will make a bet to win on this horse and press into this horse in doubles, pick 3s, pick 4s, pick 5s. Anything close to the morning line odds. I will then use Tapit Trice on top in exactas, trifectas, superfectas with the number 1, Tapit Shoes. I will use underneath number 4, National Treasure, because I think that is the speed of the speed, though Dan might disagree with me. I will not be using number 5. He might be so far back he thinks he's winning the next race. Number 6, Forte, I maybe underneath. I think you probably want to use, but
Hit Show is Forte. A little. Stop it. You're not touching
Forte now. Hit Show. But I'm going to go Tapit Trice on top. Underneath, there's a whole slew of horses. Angel of Empire, Red Route 1, and number 1 would be the ones that I would really press with in second and third. If I was if this was my one day, if I'm a horse player where I'm only betting like one race every month or every year, Belmont Stakes, box around a few horses, I would box 1, 2, 4.
And they're on the screen right there. Tap it, choose, tap it, trice.
Right. I think you have to look at this race from two perspectives. Are you the type of horse player? Are you the type of gambler who only bets the Derby, Belmont Stakes, maybe the Breeders' Cup? Like once in a while, you want some action, you want to win, you want to have a good time, you want to print some money, box around some horses, have a good time. If you're going to play these, like I recommend to a lot of people on Giddy Up Bets, you have to take stands. You have to press your opinion. You don't want to be boxing around and wasting capital everywhere else. If you're like Danny, you're going to bet all 13 of these races and fire and have a good time. Take it easy. You don't want to be boxing 5 horses. But if you're going to do that, and I've done it, I said that I still could. You just want to properly, how do I say it? You want to have you want to formulate a betting plan. And for me, if there's a horse that I really like, I'm going to put him on top and then underneath sprinkle in other horses at prices. And that's what I'll do. It would be the 2 on top with the 1, the 4, 8, and 9.
All right, Dan. Has anything changed for you with this sermon?
No, I will say, I will say, and I mean this, with like all sincerity, like when Mark really likes a horse in a big race, I listen. So because of that, I'm going to factor in Tap It Trice probably more seriously than I would have. I'm not going to just dismiss him based on what I thought was probably a lackluster Kentucky Derby. So I will say I will elevate Tap It Trice, but I am going to do 2 things. I'm going to do my bet that I think happens or that hits if the race unfolds the way I think it's going to unfold, which is Angel of Empire and Il Miracolo. So that's 5 and 8 with 5 and 8 with all in third. And then I'm also going to play a superfecta that way. So it's a pretty simple, straightforward bet. It'll cover, because I have no clue at 1.5 miles, and no one does, in spite of all the information we have about pedigree and who's likely to make the 1.5 mile distance. No one knows who's going to finish 3rd and 4th in the Belmont Stakes. That's the biggest guess of all. We've had some impossible horses finish 3rd and 4th over the years in the Belmont Stakes. So I'm happy to go all in the super using 5-8 in those first 2 spots. And I know no matter who comes out 3rd and 4th, I'm going to cash a pretty big ticket. But separate from that, I am going to play a saber bet if the logic that Mark shared plays out, which it very well could. I would say there's at least a 70% chance that Il Miracolo either goes to the front and fades, or goes to or just sits right off of National Treasure and fades. I can tell you, if he doesn't go with National Treasure, he's going to finish last. If he is not on the lead after a 1/4 mile this race, Il Miracolo is finishing last, which is why I think he's going to be on the lead. And then so the backup bet would be some combination, which I haven't fully formulated at this point, but it's going to be Angel of Empire on top with 3 or 4 horses underneath in exactas and trifectas, including Hit Show, the 7, including Tap It Trice, the 2, and Tap It Choose, the 1, and then a few more horses underneath there. So basically, I'd be 8 with 1. What is that? 1, 7. Who did I miss? 8 with 1, 2, 7 as sort of my backup bet. And I will say Arcangelo could also, Mark didn't talk much about Arcangelo. I think the horse, this could be like a reality check for the horse, right? I mean, going from the Peter Pan, I think the last horse to win the Belmont out of the Peter Pan, winning the Peter Pan was Tonalist, and that was 2014. So it's not exactly like, oh, this horse just won the Peter Pan, look out. But the 98 buyer, and I know Mark uses different numbers, but the buyer at least sets the horse up to where if he could jump up to like a 103, a 104, 105, then he's in play. And if there's pace in front of him, he's definitely in play. So you might want to use him in that 3rd spot or even the 2nd spot.
All I have to say is Mark has sold me on Tap It Trice. And
I'm hurt.
So that's where my money is going to be flowing on Saturday. And I'm just excited that I'm going to be in the mix with both you guys there. Yeah. So when it all comes to an end, one's going to be smiling, the other one's going to be crying, the other one's going to be saying, I told you so. And I'm going to be right there, which is going to be a ton of fun. And thank you, ABR, America's Best Racing. Mark, you rock. Always great having you on. And again, just a reminder, NYRA Bets, that's where you want to go. Put in my code Anita25, free $25 as soon as you sign up, and they will match your bet up to $200. And of course, we've just fed you some winners. So there you have it. You could thank us later. Gentlemen, thank you so much. I'm really excited to see you both on Saturday. By the way, what are you wearing?
Who's that for?
It's a good question.
What are you wearing?
I don't know. I'm deciding between like
I don't know what I'm wearing.
Dress or like a linen pantsuit. What do you think I should?
Those are the two things that those are the two things I'm trying to figure out too. Well, Nita, whatever you wear, you're gonna look great. So you're winning. It's a win-win-win. Win-win.
Right.
Win-win-win. Right. All I know, I don't know what I'm gonna wear, but I'm gonna bring an empty bag for all the cash.
I love it.
Right. I don't know, but I hope to see both of you on Saturday. I know it will, and it's a great day. These are the types of days that you create fans. There's a buzz. It's fun. No matter what, the win, lose, or draw. It's I always say a bad day at the racetrack is better than a great day anywhere else. And you want to pace yourself with 13 races, formulate a betting plan, have a good time, say hello to Dan. Let's go Mets. Let's go Tapit Trice. Let's print some money.
Are the Mets losing yet?
Probably. I bet on them, so they're definitely going to be losing.
Everybody, thank you so much for tuning in to our Belmont preview show. Of course, brought to you by NYRA Bets. We will see you at the track on Saturday.
It's America's original sport, and no one covers it better than americasbestracing.net. From the sport to the lifestyle, the best races, horses, and destination venues, cocktails, gambling, fashion, and more. americasbestracing.net is a sport for you.